Good afternoon and welcome to Strong at Home. This is Dr. Brenda Murphy, and I'm an educational psychologist. We're going to have someone who is a school counselor who's going to be with us today, Carol Slatas, who is a senior school counselor at Farragut Intermediate School here in Knox County, Tennessee. And before we actually bring Carol and say hello to her, I wanted to say to all of you that this week we are helping you to make some decisions or helping you think through the decision of, so you really want to homeschool? And there are a lot of perspectives from that. And especially now that everyone who has a school-age child has, during the past school year, been a homeschooler for a little while. And some of you are struggling to make the decision, do I really want my child to go back to public or private school? Do I want them to stay at home for a short period of time? Or is this possibly a permanent decision? So I want to welcome Carol with us. Hello, Carol. Thank you so much for joining us today. And the reason I wanted you to be in on this conversation is because many of the parents that we're actually speaking to in our series on So You Want to Homeschool are the parents who were the unexpected, I never wanted to homeschool in the first place. But as they've had that opportunity, they've seen possibly some situations with their children that they may have never seen before.
Right.
And especially for the grades that you work with, which is third, fourth, and fifth. And those are kind of special situations anyway, developmentally. And what are some of the things that age typically brings to the table that might make a parent think, hey, homeschooling might be the right choice for me? What are some things that parents might be thinking about?
Well, I think there could be a lot of different things. It could be academic. Maybe they're seeing that they're expecting something that they're not necessarily seeing in their child. It could be social aspects that they're seeing or things that they feel like they need to work on.
Yeah. And in your experience, and how long have you been a school counselor? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I've been a school counselor for a while. Before I became a school counselor, I was a high school teacher. And then I switched to counseling and started working in elementary settings. So I've loved it. I worked in Maryland for several years before I moved here. And then I worked at a small private Christian school here for a couple years, and then decided to stay home with my own children for a couple years before returning to public school. So I kind of have the gamut. I've been the stay-at-home mom. I've worked in public schools. I've worked in private schools. And
so you bring a lot of experience to the table to help parents make those decisions. And one of the things that I think is important for parents to realize, that when they're having a concern or an issue, that their school counselor is really their friend.
Yeah. I think so to talk about, I didn't answer your part of the question is what is it we do? So school counselors, we work with like what's called 3 domains. And so there's an academic domain. So you're helping students who are having challenges. And then there's a social emotional domain. And that's where we really spend most of our time. And then there's also a career. So college and career. So as you get up into the high school, you're going to be focusing a lot more on that, kind of what courses are you taking, where are you trying to go? But in the elementary school, we do a lot with social emotional needs. And so we do that through classroom lessons. We also do counseling individually in small groups. But another big thing that people aren't aware of is we can consult with people. So we're a really good person to talk to from a parent's perspective, or even from teachers or admin to kind of to bounce some ideas off of. A lot of times we can be that kind of neutral person who can help. So when it comes to making this decision, I would highly recommend that a parent talk to the school counselor. If that school counselor doesn't know their child, like give them an opportunity to get to know their child, because they can have a really important, they can have a very neutral kind of take on it and really help you make some important decisions.
And can the school counselor also help the parent understand maybe how the child has been in the classroom? Of course, many things are out the window now, but can help in that regard.
They can. I mean, it depends on the school counselor, but I know in the elementary schools, we're in there a lot. And so we do have a little bit of the teacher's perspective in the sense that we've been in and done classroom lessons. So they can be another, person who's been in that environment and can give some feedback on that.
Well, I think that in this making the homeschool decision at this point, there are so many parents who during the last 4 months have oh, excuse me, I will have to learn. I forgot to mute my phone. Forgive me for that. Sometimes I forget to do that. That sometimes that there are many decisions that parents are trying to make right now. And some of them really stem from that a lot of parents want their children to stay home because of the concerns for a outbreak of the COVID again, and that they would have to come home again, or there may be one in which that they did not realize that there was going to be, it's spontaneous. And so that rather than chance that, they're thinking, well, I will just homeschool my child right now.
Right.
And for that parent, what is some advice you might give to them in terms of, because it sounds like perhaps that the parents may be very anxious about that situation.
Right. I mean, I guess I'm putting myself in that boat. Like, I've got to decide what's going to happen. I know from the school's perspective, there's a lot of planning that's going in place to make a decision about, it being flexible. Are we going to be in school? Are we going to be kind of maybe part in school, part not in school? Or are we going to be all online? So I guess the big question I'm wondering is, are they homeschooling and kind of doing their own separate program, or is there going to be something available in their district where they're still going to be getting support directly from the school? So that's something really big to look into. I have friends in Maryland, different colleagues and people I've been in contact with through being the East Tennessee Regional Counselor Coach, that I'm trying to see what are other people doing. And it sounds like most districts are kind of having that multiple options. And so that would be something to consider. What is the school already going to provide?
So if they decide to take the school option, which provides continuity of instruction, that perhaps if a parent is still having some concerns about that, am I doing what's best and right for my child at home? Would that still be an option for a school counselor to speak into that situation?
For sure. I mean, I do, like I said, even if there wasn't this COVID situation, if you were just, let's take that totally off the table, I think the school counselor could be a good person to talk to. Another thing that counselors do is they advocate for students. They're always the student advocate. And so it's important. So I think it's important that parents communicate the concern with the school, not to have it like just this one-sided concern that they're keeping within themselves, to communicate with the school. So that can be the administrator. Obviously, you want to start directly with the teacher. If you're starting out the new school year, you don't necessarily know that teacher just yet, but an administrator or school counselors can be a really good starting point.
Well, let's back out and do a what if, that the world is not the way that it really is, but it's sort of a more typical year, because I think some of the parents are also had considered homeschooling at some point,
right,
and had not made that decision, but this is kind of like, well, maybe this is my opportunity to try it.
Right.
And if those parents were coming to you saying, I really wanted to homeschool my child, but I'm kind of anxious about it, how would you counsel them? Because I know that in our discussions, we've talked about that although there are not a lot of families that have done that, but there are families who have come to you for support on, should I make this decision or not?
I think my big question is, and it wouldn't be in a judgmental why, but I would be asking why. Like, that's what I would say. I'd say, why is it that you're considering this now? Because I think that's really important to ask. And again, not in a why would you do that, but more why. What is the reasoning behind it? Because you want to have the right reasoning behind it. So if there's a concern with the school, you want to be able to say, can we address it? Is it something we need to do? Or is it simply you really want to do this? And then the discussion would kind of be, well, how is it going to look differently? What are going to be some things that change that you might need to supplement in some way, something that they would have had access to at school, but they may not at home. The other big thing is, I know for me, most of the people I've worked with, it's about anxiety. And so if it's solely about anxiety, I definitely would have a little bit of a concern that you're removing them from the challenge when really you want to push through that challenge. So if you just remove a challenge, you're never actually teaching your child how to work through it on their own. So you don't want to just remove obstacles. You want to teach them how to get through that. So I'd be very reluctant to say, oh, just take them out of school. Because they're having anxiety about school. I would work really closely with that family to make sure they had the tools necessary to push through that instead.
So it may be that if a child is at a point in their life and there's something going on that is really not just about anxiety about school, but possibly about a life situation or a change that has been there. May that be a situation where you might give them some counsel and make a transition to homeschool. It doesn't have to be a permanent one, but these are things that we can transition into homeschool, see if it's working. But if you want to come back, this is the way, these are some plans we need to put in place.
I know for me personally, I've got two boys. I've got one boy who's in public school and one who goes to private school. And it's like every year, it's a discussion, what's going to be the best in our current situation for both boys. And I think every child is different. Every child has specific needs. So I think if you're just like really being aware of that, that's important, but bring in the school as part of that conversation.
Because do you think that with the schools, that they would be willing, say if the decision was made to homeschool, would the schools be supportive in helping them say, this is where your child is in this subject academically, and these are some recommendations we would make to make sure that you are successful in your home instruction, with the potential of maybe coming back at some point, or making sure that their long-term success is going to be in place for those children?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to everyone else. Like I can say I would do that. I know one of my closest friends decided to start homeschooling her child. It was about a quarter into this school year. So that was really interesting for me because I'm the school counselor, but I'm also her really good friend. So that was just this last school year. And what an interesting year to do that, because the last quarter of the year ended up everyone was kind of doing that. But the teacher of her son was phenomenal in terms of really helping her understand what they were going to be doing, where they were, and really gave a lot of that feedback you were talking to. So that was that one teacher. I can't guarantee everyone would do that. But what I will say about educators, like it's such a passion. People who go into education, they really do care. I mean, every once in a while you get someone who maybe doesn't, yes, but overall, these people have such good hearts and want good things for the children. And so I think most of the time you will find that someone would be really supportive and try and help in any way that they can.
Yeah. I think that that's one of the big takeaways that we've made during this period is that parents and the general public have been able to see the heart and caring of the majority of educators, and finding just the right situation and the right placement for each child. And so when they are engaged in making major decisions for their children, that educators have that expertise and that background, and that it's important for us to partner as we've never done before.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure too that perhaps in your conversations, you're saying, well, we may have more children staying at home than we have had before. And how are we planning to make sure that if they decide to come back, or when they decide to come back, that transition is a much smoother one for them?
All I can say to that right now is I guarantee you that conversation is happening in every single district. I guarantee you, because it's what everyone is talking about right now. It's everything I'm seeing in emails I'm getting, things that they're having webinars on, not only as an educator, but also as a school counselor. So I guarantee people are talking about that. They're not just flying into it unprepared. So that makes me really happy to see that people are having those conversations. And more than ever, I'm seeing people talking about people's social and emotional health, which I'm like, woohoo!
That's so important. Yeah, because in all of this, that's really what we're here to protect, is the children and the parents, and that the long-term outcome is a benefit that we have stronger children.
Yeah.
That we are stronger at home for our parents and stronger at home for our children, because the parents and the teachers are both strong and working together.
Yeah.
That will benefit the children. So in making our decisions about homeschooling, whether it's one that we've thought about for a long time or we're just considering it, know that you're not alone.
Yes.
That no one is alone in this decision. There are schools like Carol is a school counselor, and she will be there to support you if you've been in your school system for a long time and this is a difficult decision. There are homeschool professionals like at Sail Away that we can help you make that decision and help you walk through it on the front end and the back end and everything in between. So I guess our main takeaway, Carol, is that don't go this alone.
Yes.
Don't do this in a vacuum. There are helps for us all to get through this time as healthy and as strong as we can.
That's right.
I think that we have covered what will be very helpful for parents. I think that making this homeschool decision is a major one, and that we know that the schools are going to be supportive and understanding like they've never been before, no matter what decision you make. So as we conclude our Strong at Home for today, I'll end with the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious upon you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Peace, and hope that it will just be a great rest of your day. And we'll talk to you again, Carol. Thank you for your wisdom. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.